Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scott Pollack, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago, reporting. Welcome to another edition of the Critical Post Chicago Report. Thanks again for tuning us in, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. This edition of the Critical Post Chicago Report is coming to you live or almost live from the capital of the Midwest Coast, Chicago, Illinois, USA. This is part one of the Definitive Bullet Point series regarding the mass shooting at Mandalay Bay conducted with Paladin of the White Hats Report.
Okay, greetings everybody. We're going to talk about Las Vegas, and the first section that I want to talk about is just give a brief overview and a timeline of what's transpired since October 1st. And first of all, what we all were riveted to the first couple of weeks were the news conferences that the LVMPD conducted, and those were, I guess we probably had 10 or 12 within the first 2 weeks. And then once we got to Friday, October 13th, that was basically shut down, and we didn't hear anything. So they went dark October 13th. So most of the things that happened in the background, we're going to cover here, and we're going to talk about these in detail in the other sections, but I just want to give a brief overview here of the timeline. So the next thing that actually took place was the beginning of the probate court case for the Paddock estate. That was in November last year. Then in December 20th, the autopsies were finished. December 21st, the next day, the coroner released the names and the manner of death for all the victims, the 58 victims. Also on December 21st, Paddock's body was cremated. Okay, so the next thing then that happened was the release of the preliminary report, commonly known as the FIT report. FIT stands for Force Investigation Team, which is basically a division of the Internal Affairs, and they get involved whenever there's an officer-involved shooting. It's been kind of curious to most of us who are familiar with police work, because Paddock's body, or what they represented as Paddock's body, was found in 135. The shooting took place from 135 and 134, according to the official report. And there was an accidental discharge by one of the SWAT officers when they breached 134. So they were able to use that accidental discharge as a reason to use the Internal Affairs, the Force Investigation Team, as opposed to the homicide detectives, which I think everybody thought was pretty interesting. Okay, January 18th, we had the release of the preliminary report. That included 58 pages of text, and then 20-some pages of pictures. Now, in the meantime, there was a lawsuit that culminated at the end of January, filed by some news organizations wanting the coroner to release the autopsies. And the coroner refused to do that. They took it to court. The judge, under the Nevada open records law, compelled Funderburg, the coroner, Clark County coroner, to release the autopsies. He finally did on January 31st of 2018. However, he redacted the names, the ages, and some other information, the names, the ages, the race, and also the numbers associated with those autopsy reports. They wanted Paddock's autopsy to be released at that point, and 10 days later, on February 10th, they finally released Paddock's full-blown autopsy. That was February 10th. Okay, March 1st, they had another probate court hearing, and during that probate court hearing, they indicated that because Paddock died without a will, which I believe is still called intestate, his mother, according to Nevada state law, his mother would have inherited his estate. She basically waived her claim to the estate and said that she wanted that to be given to the distributed among the victims. So at that point in time, they changed the venue of the probate case. They took it out of probate court and they actually put it into the district court. Okay. Now, on April 27th, during all this time, there was a lawsuit also brought by several media organizations for the release of evidence. And this release, what they wanted was body cam video and 9/11 calls and officer reports and witness statements and this kind of thing. Of course, Lombardo fought that. He didn't want to release any of the information. And then he came back and said, I want to charge $500,000 to do this. The court, of course, denied that. LVMPD basically appealed that to the Nevada Supreme Court, and they lost. So on April 27th, that decision came down.
For clarification, Paladin, Lombardo is the sheriff, is that correct?
Yes, he is the sheriff of LVMPD.
So he is the chief of police.
Well, it's a combined effort. They have police. And some cities have done this, although it usually hasn't worked out for political reasons. But they've combined the sheriff's department with the city into one police department. They call it the Las Vegas Metro Police Department.
Okay.
And Lombardo is the sheriff, and he is the head of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. So
he's been the public face.
Essentially, yes, he has been. In addition, there's been the special agent in charge of the FBI in Las Vegas, Aaron Rouse, has also been the face of it. But Lombardo primarily has been the one that conducted all the press releases and the news conferences in the beginning, in the first couple of weeks, as I said, the last one being October 13th. Now, there have been press conferences since then, but interestingly enough, Lombardo has not taken any questions. They've just been press conferences and basically to announce what was going on. And after this April 27th decision by the Nevada Supreme Court, Lombardo did a press conference and said, okay, we're going to start releasing the body cam footage and the witness statements and 9/11 calls and some other information. We're going to start rolling that out on a rolling basis, and it'll be once a week, and that will be every Wednesday. And the first release was on May 9th, on Wednesday, May 9th. And to date, there have been 11 releases, so it's been 11 weeks since that first release. They are supposed to get all those releases out within 6 months of the original court decision, which was in civil court, and that was in district court, state court, and that was in March. So from my calculation, they're supposed to have all this stuff released by sometime in September.
Okay, please continue with the rest of the bullet points.
Okay, then the end of July or the end of June, they had another hearing on the probate case, and I'll call that a probate case even though it's not in probate court. At that point in time, they had appointed earlier in March, they appointed a CPA to handle they called it to handle the inventory of Paddock's assets. So they had a status conference or a status hearing on, I believe it was June 28th, and the attorney, Alice Denton, who is representing the CPA, they came in before the judge and gave a status of where they were with the with that case, which was very interesting. I'm going to talk about that in detail in another one, another release here. So anyway, that occurred on June 28th. Then the day after the 4th of July, the CPA got a approval from the judge to then list the two houses that Paddock owned that we all know about, the one in Mesquite and the one in Reno. So they have been listed for sale. As far as I know, they will be, if they don't sell, they're going to be auctioned off, I believe, next week. Now, going forward then, next month, Lombardo has indicated that the final LVMPD report on the October 1st shooting is going to be out sometime in August. Initially, it was supposed to be July. And then there's been some recent talk that the FBI wanted to review that report before it was released. So tentatively scheduled for next month. And then the final thing on the overview and timeline section is the FBI has indicated, Rouse has indicated that the final FBI report, which we understand is going to be more focused on Paddock and his motivations and actions and background, that is supposed to be ready by October 1st. So that'll be the first anniversary. So at that point in time, it appears as if all this stuff will be wrapped up.
Again, this is Scott Pollack, Chief Editor of the Critical Post Chicago, reporting. Thanks again for watching another edition of the Critical Post Chicago Report, coming to you live or almost live from the capital of the Midwest Coast, Chicago, Illinois, USA. That is all.